You should be the host here.
We're laughing at you.
We're both Munster people, diehard Munster people, and we want them to do well.
The Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Nobody knows Munster rugby better.
I'd like to think I know a lot. Hello and welcome along to episode 34 of the Red 78. I'm Alan Quinlan and here on the Rugby channel, and with me always is Niamh Briggs. You're away in the sun, Niamh. We're not going to reveal where you are. Maybe you're you're after getting a touch of the sun the last few days. How was it been?
Yeah, it's been beautiful out here. I'm out in Spain, so it's very nice, and just a total switch off after a very busy season before we get going again. So it's good.
Did you get to watch the Champions Cup final?
Yeah, I did. Incredible game. The atmosphere looked absolutely electric, and look, as an Irish rugby fan, you've got to feel very disappointed for Leinster, but as a Munster fan, you've got to be delighted for Raj Donica. I think they were exceptionally. I thought La Rochelle were an exceptionally well coached team on the day, and yeah, great win for them. The scenes in La Rochelle, have you seen them? Looked incredible.
I saw it. Yeah. I was there doing commentary, so there was lots of Leinster people saying to me afterwards, "I'm looking forward to the podcasts." Well, we're not going to analyse the game in full, but obviously it was an incredible occasion, and Leinster were heartbroken, I think, and certain nearly all the pundits before the game reckoned that Leinster would win it, including myself. I'm sure you thought the same as well.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen from Leinster this year and their consistency, and I got a bit of criticism from a headline and Off the Ball yesterday saying that Leinster left their worst performance of the season. What I meant by that was, I don't write the headlines, obviously, that they played such at a high level the whole way through the Champions Cup. The tries they'd scored, the cohesion, the accuracy, all that kind of stuff, and they just came unstuck on Saturday. So it was incredible there to see to be there with the atmosphere and to see the scenes at the end, the way La Rochelle won it at the end. But 3-0. The maul try, the second one, and the third one, the pick and go. Well, that wasn't any sort of creativity. I think the second try from the maul was power. The first try to score, bit of brilliance from Dylan Lades to get his hands through and unleash Raymond Rule, but a lot of frustration there. And as you say, look, from an Irish point of view, it's a little bit worrying with the Irish tour. Same questions coming up a little bit again about power and physicality that we had with Ireland for a few years.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the case.
No,
Saturday.
I'm not sure. I don't think it was a case of power and physicality. I thought there was just key moments. I thought La Rochelle's breakdown work was exceptional. Their ability to get past the ball but not get penalised by being really smart. They almost turned their bodies back towards their own team. They were able to hold in Leinster players in and around that ruck. And look, it's right on the edge, but what it does is it slows down the defensive line speed, because it makes it really difficult to fold around, and therefore it makes it easier for you as an attacking side to get to that edge, like that Raymond Rule try. And I just thought that they were exceptions, that their ability to hold on to the ball for long spells was huge. And I thought, and here's the thing, the first 30 minutes I thought was just a cracking game. Like, I felt like Leinster were on it. I just felt like that the more that they couldn't pull away, the more energy that gave La Rochelle. And look, there were definitely key moments from a refereeing point of view for Leinster that they'll definitely question, I think. But also, you hit the nail on the head. 3 tries to none. Very rarely do you see a game where Leinster don't score. And Johnny even said it afterwards himself. Maybe they needed to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of their, approach when they were 12 points up. But, you get to that 3-6-9, you're starting to build, and you are, but then you're also in a space where you're putting pressure on them in that 22. Then you've got to look at, that the flow of the game as such. And I just think that a couple of times Leinster gave La Rochelle easy options to hit penalties, because anytime Leinster were in that 22, La Rochelle were very cynical. They were slowing the ball down, hands in the ruck. So they were giving those penalties away, knowing that Leinster were going to go for the points as opposed to going for the corners. So, yeah, look, lots of different things, but I thought it was a cracking game of rugby, to be fair.
Their discipline was poor, I thought, La Rochelle. They were playing right on the edge, and I think defensively they were very aggressive and obviously got the emotional right. I don't know if it's a template to beat Leinster. We've said it as Munster people during the year when Leinster played Munster. How do you stop them? Well, you've got to be aggressive, be in their faces, and stop that cohesion and that those wraparound passes and the accuracy. And unfortunately, it just broke down for Leinster at times. And at 18-10, there was a big turnover from Vian Lieberberg in La Rochelle's half, and that was crucial. They went up the field, scored in the corner. And with 14 men, I think they got stronger as the game went on. I was very, very surprised. But to be fair, a lot of Munster fans would have wanted Ronan O'Gara back in the coaching seat, and we spoke about that earlier in the season. He committed to La Rochelle, and he's got massive kudos now from what he achieved there. You mentioned the scenes on Sunday, the homecoming and all that stuff. We've seen them from Leinster and Munster and even Connacht when they won the Pro 14 a few years ago, what it's like, and they're special days for players. But the thing is, for any Leinster fans listening, and I genuinely mean this, this Leinster team isn't going anywhere. I think they can get stronger and they can learn from this again. Unfortunately, that's sport. And I
It's
just
just
thought
fine margins, really.
At 18-10, I thought that's the game. And there was three La Rochelle players down the ground. They looked out on their feet. But, you know, it just shows resolve, resilience, and that belief. And Rod spoke about that afterward. It's an incredible achievement. And, you know, as you say, Ronan O'Gara, Donica Ryan, Sean Dougal is doing strength and conditioning there. So there was a Munster element to it as well. But Leinster fans were very humble afterwards and shocked. Obviously, I met lots of them coming out of the stadium and in the airport. But big disappointment, and they were shocked. But anyway, we got to move on to what we've got to talk about today, and that's Munster Ulster. A few of my Ulster colleagues were texting me and tweeting me, welcoming me to the Kingspan on Friday. It's a bit of it's a tough one. Munster have got to pick themselves up after, you know, obviously the Toulouse game, and I listened to Stephen Larkham yesterday, and he did the media briefing about the emotional kind of turmoil, the physical turmoil of that Toulouse game, and then just not performing to the standard that they would have wanted and maybe we would have expected against Leinster's second string, if you like. So it's been a tough couple of weeks, and they find themselves in the Kingspan. They beat Ulster twice this year in Thomond Park with 14 men when Simon Zebo was sent off. That was the 8th of January. And then on the 22nd of April, they went to Belfast, and it was a must-win for Munster. And they beat Ulster up there 24-17. Great win. And it was part of that kind of positive period for Munster. Keith Earls' try, that was a superb try, as good as I've seen him score for a long, long time. I asked a question yesterday, because you know we want you to be involved as always, to tweet us at Rugby Channel 15 or else on our personal Twitters, or leave a comment on YouTube, and we'll try and get through as many comments as we can. So we have had a good response, even though my tweet was late last night. I basically asked, look, where are Munster at? Can they go and win there? Will they win there? Tyg Byrne looks like he's going to be back available. That would be obviously a huge boost, but it's kind of hard to pick a winner here. Munster have beaten them twice this year. You have tweets and responses to that tweet that I put out. We'll go through some of them first before we get into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think to be fair, majority of the responses are quite positive. I think, you know, Patrick Hogan, we've beaten them twice already this season, once with 14 men, but can we do it 3 times in a row? We have to play better than our most recent trip to the Aviva, or it'll be another disappointing result for Munster fans. Adrian O'Donoghue, Ulster have always been very strong at home, but as we know, Munster can put incredible performances together when they need to. Good start required, settle into a flow early, faster ball at the rucks and spread Ulster thin, getting the ball out wide, definitely Munster win. Ian Moore, season over if we can't, lots to fight for. we now have the template to beat Leinster. It should be a tight game. And Babs, she's a big Munster supporter. I'm sure you know her. Of course, we can progress. We just need to beat Ulster to do so. No point taking to the field if we're beaten before we start. I don't know, Flynn, can't see why not. If inspiration is needed, look back on Marseille last weekend. Matt Landers, who's an Ulster supporter, Quinny, I'm hopeful your season ends on Friday night, but worried by your recent win in Belfast. Fingers crossed a more focused Ulster turn up this time. I think comparing this weekend to the last time we played in Kingspan, it's going to be like night and day. In April, Ulster were 7 days post a very, very tough loss to Toulouse by a point over those two legs. Incredibly draining, mentally probably shell-shocked, very difficult to get yourself back up for that. So I wouldn't really be taking too much into that result. I think what we did in Thomond Park would probably be more of a proper indication of how the game, how you could set up to try and play against Ulster, because I do think that that was a really difficult thing. We've seen last weekend in terms of or 2 weekends ago, how we were unable to bounce back after that Toulouse defeat as well, and we had a week in between. That game up in Kingspan in April was just 7 days post that Toulouse defeat for Ulster, and they were obviously pretty devastated. So, Tom Lundgren, hard one to call. Tyke Byrne returning is great news. Don't think he can possibly be match ready to start though. To win there twice in the space of 6 weeks is a big, big ask, but can do it if the Munster dog is at them from the get-go, and then some to secure a win. Niall Brennan, I realise Ulster away is always a tough game, but if we want to have any sort of ambition at all, we shouldn't even be possibly thinking of Munster losing. Like, Quinny, Ulster can say the exact same from that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they can. Yeah, definitely. And they'd be nervous, I think, when the results kind of panned out, and at the last league game, and Munster were beaten, and Ulster ended up having Munster. I think that's probably one they wouldn't have wanted, given the rivalry between the two sides, and
yeah,
probably knowing that Munster will most definitely be very, very, very driven and very emotional and under massive pressure, because obviously if Munster lose, their season is over and it'll finish on a real negative. So I think the
same goes for them.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but I think it would have been an easier game for Ulster if they could have focused on, somebody else, Glasgow, Edinburgh, one of the South African teams coming to Belfast. I'm not saying that would be any easier, but I think there's a bit of baggage with this one as well. But maybe they'll have the kind of revenge piece in their minds that Munster beat them twice this year, and obviously they'll be very, very up for the game as well. It should be a cracker, but a lot of the points there some of them are very obvious. Babs is one saying, well, we just need to beat Ulster to do so, to progress to the semi-finals. But they're fairly obvious, but we can go into the details in a minute. You have a few more.
Yeah, so a couple more, just two more really. So Sean Fox, mindset needs to focus on getting small wins consistently, build up some form and start forging this group's own identity. We are behind them and dearly want them to succeed, one game at a time. Love the podcast, Tip Aboo. Bless him, Tip fan. And the last thing, I'm curious to get your opinion on this, because I think now's as good a time in any kind of chat about it. Box and Ball tweets, great pod, Munster by 5. Please comment on the additions of South African teams and their prospects in the knockouts.
I think it's great. It's not good for Welsh rugby, and that's something. If Munster are out this week, I'm sure we'll do a wrap-up pod before we finish the season. But I'm definitely keen and interested to get on somebody from Welsh rugby and see, where they're at and the struggles they're at financially. It's not good for the URC. You think Scarlets won this in 2017? Brilliant side.
Playing some really good rugby too.
Beat Munster in that final, and I think the South Africans have brought great kind of excitement and something different into the competition. Obviously, COVID was really disruptive. Where back in November when Munster were trapped down there in Cardiff and Scarlets, and I think it was Zebra as well. But I think they've been brilliant, and they're going to be in Europe next year as well. So it's going to be really intriguing for that to happen as well. So I think they've been brilliant. It's great to have them there, but I would genuinely love to see one or two of the Welsh teams in there, and I mean that sincerely. But the league table doesn't lie either. It's about consistency, and we don't want to see them left behind. So the South Africans have been really good. I think it's been positive and it's been exciting.
Yeah, completely. I just think it's this kind of time of year that we probably see the best out of them. Start of the season, their big players are obviously away playing rugby championship, and I'd imagine the sooner that they can align to probably a World Rugby calendar, the more beneficial that their club game will get in terms of the South Africans. And then you're 100% right about the Welsh, and to a certain degree, maybe some of the Scottish teams, in terms of you want them to be consistent so that every game that you go out and play, it's going to be a really tough game. And look, I think at the moment that's not the case. Obviously those Welsh teams and have the ability to kind of cause shocks like the Dragons did or the Ospreys did at certain times this season. But from a South African point of view, I just think that it's been really, really good for the competition in terms of the quality of the games and the calibre of player that are arriving in the likes of Thomond Park or the Sports Ground or the RDS and Kingspan, like that. These young rugby kids and fans are getting to see world class athletes that are have won World Cups, and it's not often that kind of calibre player comes to town. So look, I think it's brilliant, but you're dead right. Like, you'd like to make sure that the weaker teams within that league, the Italy teams too, to be fair, because that's really where the Welsh teams are slipping back to that kind of standard. And look, hopefully, I just think it's actually been it's been a really good year for URC. I think it's been quite exciting.
Yeah, it's been good, but as I said, it would have been brilliant if there was a Welsh team in there. There is 2 Scottish, 3 Irish, and 3 South Africans. So hopefully Welsh rugby can improve in the club game. And as I said, they have financial challenges and difficulties as well. There's one last tweet, and you were telling me not to read this out, but it's from Brian. I think it's spelled Lalor. Is that Lalor? Or it's not Lawler anyway, because there's no W in there. So Brian anyway sent a tweet response, and he said, "Alan, your negativity is toxic. It's driving me into the arms of Leo Cullen." I was trying to figure that one out. Why, if I'm toxic, why would I drive him into the arms of Leo Cullen if he's a Munster fan? Because next he said, Munster, one of the best teams in the world. And then he put a screenshot up of OTBM Sports yesterday morning when I was on with the lads on Off the Ball. And it was a headline, Alan Quinlan, worst performance of the year for Leinster. That was the headline. I don't make the headlines, Brian. Maybe you reckon I'm
I told you, when you're famous, you just gotta be, you've gotta be ready for these kind of tweets.
It's I don't mind, and I wouldn't be reading out positive tweets. I want to read out some of the negative ones where people challenge us. That's what we want. That's exactly what I want, is people to challenge me. Tell me I'm wrong. I think my negativity being toxic is probably taken a little bit too far. I am a little bit of a pessimist, and
you are, but we know that.
But that's my job. You're supposed to bring the positivity here. But I did say to you a few weeks ago when Munster, I think we were going through the list of Munster games that they'd lost this season in the league. And, obviously, even Leinster lost 5 in the league. Munster have lost 7. So I was just going through some of the games, and I did feel, I'm focusing on the negative here. But we've got to deal in reality as well and pick out. I always remember as a player, there's always a league game, or there's always some moment in a game that you could have and probably should have won that can come back to bite you at the end of the season, and they can be regrets. Just look at the Premier League. Liverpool, a couple of games that they drew, 1 point they lose the league, and that's just how tight it can be there. There's no playoffs, obviously, in the Premiership in soccer. But anyway, Gary, I'm not sure about I think it's a bit strong saying my complete toxic. My negativity is toxic. But as I said, I'm just trying to deal in in reality, and you can bring all the positivity here. But I've given Munster loads of credit at loads of stages this year, and I've picked holes when there's been issues and problems, and I'd like to think I'm trying to be balanced as best I can. So anyway, Brian is living in China anyway, so I don't know if I'm going to meet him anytime soon or if he wants to challenge me more, but he's welcome to, and maybe go into a bit more detail rather than picking a headline off the ball yesterday morning when I'm talking about Leinster. So I'm driving him into the arms of Leo Cullen. God. And then he says, Munster one of the best teams in the world. Well, Brian, I've news for you. Munster are not one of the best teams in the world at the moment. And that's just the reality. So anyway, let's move on to Friday night. We spoke about briefly at the start what Munster have to do. So I go back to I think Munster showed a brilliant reaction when Simon Zebo was sent off in Thomond Park in January. I thought Ulster were pretty negative and poor in trying to manage and protect the scoreline. I think there were 6 or 8 points up at one stage, and they were trying to protect that scoreline the second half, kicked the ball away a lot. Munster responded, scored 2 great tries, won that game. And that was one of the big positive moments with that group. I thought they showed a lot of resilience and steel. And the other game on the 22nd of April, massive pressure for Munster to go and win in Belfast, to obviously from a league point of view to get the points. And they did it, 24-17. If we look back at that game, I thought Munster started incredibly well in Belfast. They were on the front foot, really positive in the way they played. Scored. Stephen Archer got a try early on, and then Keith Earl's try in 28 minutes or something. It was sublime. Damien Dialende was involved. Great offloading, great passing. What do they have to do Friday night? Because obviously both teams are going to come out here and they're going to be pumped for this. So Munster struggled a little bit with Ulster's maul, more than a little bit. Ulster scored 2 maul tries there and really responded. I think Munster dominated the first half, and then Ulster came back, and Joey Carberry got a few penalties, and they managed the game quite well, and it was a brilliant win. So what are we expecting Friday night from this game, Niamh?
Yeah, look, I think from a Munster point of view, you've definitely got to see a reaction in terms of whatever, physically, from an emotional point of view, from their last game against Leinster. I thought it was really interesting to hear Larkham and Conor Murray speak yesterday in relation to not being at the pitch of the game, really, and also not having the same attention to detail heading into that game as they had done previously, which I thought was very interesting.
And why was that? Why weren't they on that pitch?
I don't know, but like to hear Conor Murray speak about not being at the, not having the same attention to detail in their preparation as they had done previously in the previous few weeks, I thought was a bit strange, in terms of maybe it was the case of, okay, look, we've thrown so much into this Toulouse game, let's back off from the information or the detail for this game and try and get through it best we can. Maybe I don't know, genuinely don't know. I've not been in that position before,
was it maybe that emotional turmoil that Stephen Larkham was talking about, that maybe the Toulouse game physically and emotionally just really had a toll on them?
Yeah, look, that's probably what it was, but very quickly you realize in at this level in rugby that if you're not, at the pitch mentally and emotionally, and I speak about it really, or speak about it quite often, but also if your attention to detail going into every game, and if you can replicate that week in, week out, you're going to be off the pace against the top teams. I think that was exactly what it was, albeit to, not Leinster's strongest team. I just think that, that kind of showed where Munster were at. So I think this week going in, if you're just going to concentrate on yourself and look at a Munster perspective, you've got to make sure that your attention to detail throughout this week has been absolutely exceptional, and that going into that game, everybody knows, what they're trying to do, where they're trying to move the ball to, how they're trying to defend where they want to attack Ulster, where their strengths and weaknesses are. So everybody's on the same page in terms of that detail. but also that ability to get to the pitch mentally. And I'd imagine from a Munster perspective, that really won't be that difficult, considering that, they lose this game and their season's done. And that's a big enough carrot to try and get people to go. From an Ulster perspective, I've just been so impressed by them at so many stages this season. I think that their backline attack is super. I think James Hume is playing exceptionally well at the moment. Very understated in terms of he doesn't have a huge amount of impacts on the ball. Like, he doesn't have a huge amount of touches, but all the touches that he gets are actually really positive impacts. I hear Mike Lowry could be out. If that's the case, he's a huge loss for them. I think he makes their broken phase play tick a lot. But and then up front, I do think up front, obviously their maul is quite good, but I think that there's ways for Munster to get at them. And as a tweeter said earlier on, and you spoke about it as well, if Tyke Byrne is back in that 23, that makes a huge difference.
So I'm going to come out with a positive stat here for Brian,
Get away.
that it's not toxic. So Ulster, there is a perception that Ulster's attack is more cohesive and they're more ambitious with how they attack. And look, defensively, I think they're very strong. I think they've conceded 297 in conceded points. They've conceded, only Leinster have conceded less. I think they've conceded 270, 276 in the top 8. Tries for, tries against. So this was surprising for me when I looked at it. Ulster have scored 47 tries in the league and conceded 31. Munster, how many do you think they've scored? 66 and conceded 34. So they've nearly
I know what you're saying.
Munster have scored 19 more tries.
Yeah, but I think we assume that the Ulster attack is exceptionally good because they actually they run it more in their own half than they kick it quite often and not. So after they get over that 10-meter line, they'll run it. So then they get line breaks and then they get a lot of penalties. And because John Cooney is such an accomplished kicker, they actually kick for posts a lot as opposed to go down the line for tries. And I do think that they're going to have to try and be a little bit more ambitious from their point of view this weekend. But their ability in broken play is so good with the likes of McCluskey. He's such a big man, his ability to get his hands free. And I know Billy Burns has played well quite the last couple of weeks, but I think we got a Munster have to put him under a lot of pressure in terms of trying to disrupt his game management. Because I think under pressure and in that contact zone, he doesn't flourish as well. Whereas if you stand off and give him space, he's well able to kick for corners. He's well able to give you little dinks over the top. He's well able to pull passes flat to the line. But he just doesn't really like the contact element.
Yeah, from Ulster's point of view, they've been inconsistent at times this season. Although Munster are the only team to beat them in the Kingspan, they lost 6. Lost to Munster twice, Stormers, the Bulls, both in South Africa, Ospreys away. The Connacht one was a really, really bad loss back in last October, November. That was a really bad loss. Obviously, they're away from home. Munster, the only side to beat them in the league. Toulouse beat them in the EPCR. So they're a very difficult side to beat at home and a very good side. And I think you named some of the players there. I think Robert Balakoon, if he gets time on the ball. James Hume has been brilliant this year. McCluskey, Ethan McElroy. Serious dangers there. Mike Lowry played it out half in the last match. So Stuart Moore was full back. So does Billy Burns come back in at 10? As you said, Mike Lowry is a doubt. Did they start John Cooney, Nathan Doak at scrum half? They have a lot of options. Their back line is really, really good. But I think where Munster kind of went at him the last time was up front. Ian Henderson being back and probably playing some matches in the last few weeks, getting match fit again. Jordy Murphy, the same, coming back from an injury. Nick Timoney's been brilliant for him this year, and of course Matty Ray as well. No Dwayne Vermeulen in that game in Belfast, and I just thought his presence, and when he's played this year, he's had a real presence about him. Hasn't been outstanding with everything he's been doing with the ball, but I just think he's so destructive in mauls. He's so positive in their mauls because he's such a big man. Did play in the game in Thomond Park, so it's kind of hard to say, well, Munster, the huge difference he was there, because Munster managed his presence in Thomond Park in January. But when Ulster play well, they're a great side to watch.
Yeah.
And they're a very, very dangerous side. So stating the obvious and trying to find out what Munster have to do on Friday night is, I think, obviously get their set piece right, scrum and line out, and not concede yards and mauls. If Ulster really fancy their chances against them, because they scored 2 tries in 2 maul tries in that game in April as well. So from a tactical point of view, is it more of the same for Munster, or do they have to be better? Because I think Ulster will be better this time.
Oh, Quinlan, Munster have to be better. Completely. I think, yes, that game, they started like a train, but I felt like that they fell
Ulster
off
were
that
dead in their
small
feet though as well, a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah, but then they allowed Ulster back into it. And if you give this Ulster team a sniff, likewise, there's a couple of things. Ulster and Munster a little bit inconsistent in terms of their ability to be ruthless in an 80-minute game. I think they're, like we saw against Toulouse for Ulster, they were way ahead, and then Ulster come back like their game last weekend, I think 2 weekends ago, where they were way ahead and against the Sharks, and then all of a sudden it's like 24-25 or something, 24-23 or 24-21, like two tries in the last 2 minutes from the Sharks, and you think, oh God. So Munster have to completely and utterly play till the end, like play till the actual end, because you'll still find ways to score against this team, I think. There are definitely weak links within that defensive line. But also, if they get ahead, Munster still have to be ruthless. They still have to continue to play. They still have to continue to not give easy ins. You're completely right. Their discipline has to be really good. So, yeah, it's a winnable game. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge admirer of Dan McFarland. I love how Ulster play at times, but there's definitely an inconsistency within them as a group, and I think that Munster can use that to their advantage.
Does Ty Byrne, Andrew Conway, Damien Dialende, Peter O'Mahony go straight back into the side? This isn't the case that we'll try and manage them for the week after, because there might be no week after.
Yeah, 100% agree. Cup final, you've got to play now. Maybe the Ty Byrne one could be an ask, and to be fair, the Andrew Conway one too, because that was a bit of a strange one. He obviously gets injured coming into the Toulouse game with an injury. Or the Leinster game, sorry, re-injures, if they said afterwards in the medical report, and then so do you mind him for a New Zealand tour? Like, that's obviously not what Munster will want to do. But in my mind, if you're looking at Zebo and Earls, they're both playing week in, week out as well. So I think Mahoney definitely has to come back in. They're a different team with
John
him.
Klein is possibly back as well and trained this week after the neck injury. Do you start Klein, Ty Byrne, Thomas Ahern? Who starts there? Craig Casey, the question we keep being asked all the time, or is it Conor Murray again? Conor Murray probably didn't have his best game against Leinster, as many of his teammates. I thought he was outstanding the previous couple of weeks, Conor Murray.
No, you need Conor Murray for his defensive ability against Ulster at the start. And I do think that, whether Craig likes us or not, but his ability to provide a huge amount of energy in a right way is going to be very important coming off the bench against Ulster.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of, obviously we don't have teams, we can't get into it, but needless to say, and I think for anyone listening, it's kind of either going to be, it's going to be a heartbreaking situation, because I think if Ulster go out, it's a lot of question marks, finishing on a real negative in the quarterfinals at home. If Munster go out, we're dragging up some of the last couple of weeks. And that Leinster game, and probably the season overall, to go up in the quarterfinals and go of both competitions would be really, really disappointing. If they can get over Ulster at the weekend, which for any of the Ulster listeners, I know there's a few tune in, it's a tough ask. It's a hard game to separate these sides. And I think they're both at a level where they're very close. So it's a hard game to separate who performs on the night, who wins those little moments, a little bit of luck, whatever. And I think Munster, both sides can, they're away to, if Stormers or Edinburgh. So if Edinburgh were to win in the Stormers, then Ulster would be at home, and vice versa for Munster as well.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I think you can't be looking ahead to a semi-final.
No.
This is a tough ask for both sides.
Fact, yeah. Look, I think it's going to be a cracking match. I really do. Ulster on Friday night. Pity Friday night for a lot of Munster fans. Difficult to get up there for a 7:30 kickoff. But I do think it's going to be a brilliant match and a really good atmosphere.
Yeah, we'll be back. We'll obviously pick the bones out of it next week. Hopefully it won't be the last podcast we're doing, that we'll be looking forward to a semi-final in the URC. Obviously there's been talk, and we've been going on for months about the coaching ticket and completing the coaching ticket. I'm being told, and it's still been rumoured, that Denis Leamy is going to be announced imminently as a new defence coach for Munster. Imminently, when I mean it could be tomorrow. And I think it's pretty much out there now that Munster and Ulster and the RFU have reached some sort of a compromise to release Denis to join the coaching ticket.
Munster, Leinster, yeah.
Munster Leinster, I should say. That Graham Rowntree he's going to be part of the coaching ticket with Andy Kiriakou, Mike Prendergast. So is that good news? Denis Leamy coming back. He's still relatively inexperienced.
Yeah, but he's also, I have huge admiration for him that he's gone away. Okay, not to the extent of Barrage, but he's not staying in his comfort zone in Munster, and he did a big club game in the AIL with Carmel and Cashel, and then didn't get a peek into the Munster job when it came up in terms of that EPO job, I think it was, and went to Leinster. He definitely have learned a huge amount from Stuart Lancaster, Leo Cullen, and how they prepare and the detail that goes into how they operate, and he put his own stamp on things as well in terms of the coaches that he's had. But I just think it's really important. It's another part of Munster's DNA that's coming home, and that will have affect a huge amount of change in terms of that understanding of what it is to be for Munster and what it is to play for Munster. And we speak about how ingrained Graham Rowntree has come into this team, and how he makes it feel like home. But having the likes of Denis Leamy and Prendy in there will be able to accentuate that and hammer it home. So look, I think it's great, and I think it's brilliant for him to be able to come home to Munster and to have a positive impact.
The hope is that Mike Prendergast, Andy Kiriakou, Denis Leamy, and of course the head coach Graham Rowntree hit the ground running. Big jobs on their hands, big pressure, and there's probably a little bit of inexperience there, but obviously the hope, there is excitement that they will bring new energy, new ideas. And I think Denis coming back, having played with him for so long, knowing his character, he's very determined, hard mentality, and I think he will have learned a lot in Leinster and probably seen. You can't just you can learn the ideas and see the way they do it, and hopefully you can bring some of those ideas back. I always say it about, when you go up training with Ireland, you learn new stuff, try and bring it back and help players around you. So I'm sure Denis will have seen the depth, the quality, even if not off the recognised players and what's required. He brings back some of that knowledge, just not from his playing career, but from his time in Leinster as well. So I think it will be a really positive one, and we'll be just waiting on a director of rugby then, and that they'll be complete. And then they have to try and get some players. I think tight head hookers, front row replacements. But we'll see what happens and pans out over the next period of time when that. We've got to leave it there. That's episode 24 of the Red 78. To make sure you get your podcast straight to your phone every week, just search for the Red 78 wherever you get your podcasts and press subscribe. Don't forget to get in touch with your thoughts on my negativity or toxicity, or whatever, or positivity sometimes. You can tweet both Niamh and I at our Twitter on Twitter as well, or at the Rugby Channel 15, or leave a comment on YouTube. So that's it for this week. Fingers crossed Munster season stays alive. I'm sure Ulster people will be thinking the same. And enjoy the sun, Niamh.
Thanks a million.
Talk to you next week.
The Munster Rugby Podcast, Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Nobody knows Munster rugby better.